Welcome to Navigating Texas Workforce Commission for Musicians, an interactive panel discussion. Fridays at 1 p.m. Brought to you by the Austin Federation of Musicians and with the Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee. The Unemployment Compensation Advisory Committee are members of the Austin Federation of Musicians, Local 433 of the American Federation of Musicians, aka the Musicians Union. Some of us work as contractor 1099 workers, and others work as employee W-2 workers in various aspects of the music industry.
The goal of this session is to share our experiences, including trials and tribulations related to the Texas Workforce Commission, or TWC, with other musicians in the state of Texas to aid in navigating the TWC application process. We are not experts in unemployment assistance. We are musicians.
The information contained herein does not constitute either legal advice or an official pronouncement or a position of the Austin Federation of Musicians, but rather is only the personal opinions of the panelists. The panelists do not give legal advice or make official rulings on agency matters, should not be cited as authorities in any matter before the agency or when dealing with agency staff about a case, and must minimize their involvement with administrative processes. They also do not give legal advice on any other matter, and any information they should give should not be used as a basis for taking any employment-related action. Before taking any employment action that could adversely affect an employee, or before using any sample form or policy you may obtain from this group, you should consult a licensed private sector employment law attorney of your choice. Okay, welcome back. This is Navigating Texas Workforce for Musicians for April 30th, 2021. And yeah, it's been a while. Yep, joining me are Russell and Mark. Hello, fellas. Yeah. Gosh, we always kind of start with the websites that are down in the video description. You got the TWC website and their Facebook page. Those are the most up-to-date places to get the most accurate information about TWC. And of course, our Local 433 Musicians Unemployment Information Sharing page on Facebook, our COVID-19 resources page, and Who Represents Me, the Capital of Texas version. Has become very important. But I guess we'll start with beverages as usual. I'm doing coffee. What are y'all drinking over there?
Same old
spring water.
Boring green tea.
No, not boring. Not boring. Remarkably consistent, but I wouldn't say boring. And also with spring water, of course, too. Yeah. Right on, right on. Okay. Well, we don't have a lot of news today, either on the TWC channels or the regular news channels. There's just not a lot of unemployment news, other than the fraud thing seems to be the big concern at the TWC channels still. There still seems to be a lot of, malicious intent with unemployment, both with people seeking unemployment for themselves, but also people stealing identities in order to get unemployment benefits, and then an innocent person gets a notification that they owe money, or their money has been paid out on their behalf, and they don't know anything about it. So we still want to watch out for that for sure. I guess the stories we've been tracking about, like the MEUC, the multi-earner, mixed earner unemployment compensation. Still no news about that from the state of Texas or from TWC. We had one of our members. I think we referred to her as Ms. B. She's still tracking that, and that's going to be, supposedly it's going to be an extra $100 on top of the $300 for unemployment compensation if your income is mixed between W-2s and 1099s, or W-2s and self-employment, that type of thing, because you wind up getting less because the TWC really only counts one of the other of those things. And Texas has said that they are going to implement this national program, but there's been zero news as to how that's going to happen or when. Although they did confirm they're going to do it at a sort of a question and answer session, but that was last month. And of course, the program started back in January, so, and it only goes to September, like a lot of these things. So, when is it going to happen? We don't know. But we're watching it. What we talked about last week is still ongoing as far as the problems with ID.me. We've seen some more postings on Facebook stuff, and we've heard from another musician this week that had trouble with the ID.me system. And what do you guys think? Should we get an let's get an update from Mark first about what's going on with your stuff, if you don't mind.
No, I'm fine with that. I received an email from TWC probably a month ago now about requiring that I go to ID.me and fill out stuff about my identity. So I did all of that and completed the forms, sent everything in, required a picture of my license and a couple of other things. So I did all of that, and then I guess maybe a week later, I got an email from TWC saying that they were unable to verify my identity, and they were terminating my benefits. So the last time I, put in a benefit payment request, the result was that I was not eligible, so I got zero. So since then, I've tried to get in touch with TWC, and that's, a lost cause as far as their phone numbers ever being answered. I've repeatedly tried to get in touch with ID.me, and I just get response emails back saying, "We're sorry you're having trouble. We're going to get in touch with you shortly," and then nobody ever gets in touch with me. So that seems like a dead end. And then, courtesy of you, Aaron, I contacted Zeffirini's office and spoke to Krista there, or emailed Krista there, and she was sympathetic and said that she was going to get my phone number over to somebody at TWC and they were going to call me. Well, that hasn't happened yet. So basically, I feel like I've, fallen into a black hole here and have not been able to find a way out of it. So I'm hoping that other musicians aren't also suffering this same consequence.
Yeah, I mean, and unfortunately, it sounds a lot like kind of where we were last around this time last summer, when there was just kind of nothing. It seemed like you couldn't do anything, and that is disappointing for sure. As we were talking about earlier, Russell, you said you have some other different experience with ID.me through a different agency. Is that right?
Yeah, it's through VA benefits and things along that nature. It's more like a security profile. I mean, it's kind of a bureaucratic vortex. And at one point, they actually told me that we won't get back to you for like 6 months because everybody is home working because of COVID, and they're only taking the things need to be expedited, like burials and those type of things. But they did move a lot faster than 6 months. I mean, it was almost like within an hour, the VA knew who I was, but it was a totally different governmental bureaucrat.
Are you talking about before COVID they moved faster? Is that what you mean?
No, during COVID.
Oh, during COVID. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. But I've had a profile there for quite some time though, so
okay.
It wasn't like I was just starting from zero.
Yeah. Huh. Man. So I guess like TWC, it could be incredibly slow for certain things. But it seemed the ID.me thing seems to be at least reputable. If the VA is also using it, so yeah.
It seems like they're undermanned and
overwhelmed.
They're just not going to do anything about it. They just don't have the personnel at this time, and like I say, they just told me that our people are scattered their homes and
yeah.
And
well, I mean, they've got enough savvy to be able to respond to your emails.
Yeah.
Or mine. It's just they haven't done anything. They haven't gotten back to me in a concrete way to resolve the issues.
Yeah.
I mean, it's frustrating because you don't really even know whether the issue was caused by ID.me or not. I mean, there's all you get is a notification from TWC saying that you're cut off because of identity issues, but they don't say who's
doing what.
who's caused that or why that happened. And I did file an appeal with TWC, but of course that can take weeks. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
and I think if you go on the ID.me website, like Russell said, that they actually service a lot of states and federal institutions. It's not just TWC. It's several dozen agencies.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it seems like this has to be an issue with how TWC is using that entity.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, it could be ID.me has dropped the ball.
It's all speculation. You're right. There's no way to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man. Well, yeah. So we kind of went through the same process. The other musician I talked to, actually just today, their story was a little different. They went through the whole process with ID.me, and they actually got the confirmation email back from ID.me that said their identity had been verified, and then their next payment request was paid, but then the next payment request was then denied, and they got a notice that TWC needed more information from them and to call this number, and then they called that number, and somebody else said call this number, and now they're calling all the numbers, and there's no response. So we tried the same process, going through the state senator's office, and we'll see. Yeah, I think probably we'll try sort of a I don't know, semi-scientific approach. So if we don't hear anything from the senator's office in 2 days, then we'll try the Francis Brown method, and then we'll try other things. Of course, the Texas Music Office has a different contact, so we may try to go through them. And yeah, sounds like it's a whole new black hole to fall into, unfortunately.
Yep.
And I understand why they're doing it, because they're having all these fraud problems.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm all for that. I'm all for verifying people's identities, but if it doesn't work, if it doesn't work, then you are in a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, actually reaching somebody at TWC by phone or email is not a rewarding effort most of the time. So.
No. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. So, yeah, I think there's not much more we can do about that this week, or that we can say about it during this show, but we are still working on it, and we'll report back what we find out, and hopefully we'll find something out next week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you guys heard about anything else? Any other issues with unemployment with musicians recently?
No, I haven't heard anything different.
I heard like secondhand from somebody that they had heard from several musicians that the extra $300 from the American Rescue Plan had never showed up in their unemployment thing.
Wow.
But I haven't heard that firsthand from anybody. So if that's happened to you, the viewer, let us know, because that's a whole nother black hole that we should know about, that people can fall into. And so we want to try to plug these things up by sharing information about it, and kind of finding out, okay, what is the solution? Which office or contact can we get a hold of to fix this, and get everybody going again.
And make sure it's the right amount, because you don't want to get that notice, we overpaid you.
Yeah, you don't want that either. Yeah.
Well, that worries me a little bit too, in terms of this ID.me thing, because, if they claim that they're unable to verify your identity, are they going to make that claim all the way back to March of 2020?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, like suddenly am I going to get a staggering bill for thousands of dollars to repay them because they think I've been defrauding the business? That's kind of worrisome, but that hasn't happened. So
yeah, and that
cross that bridge when I come to it.
Right, and that goes back to our core our core guidance the whole time we've been doing this thing has been, to answer all the questions as truthfully and honestly as you can, no matter how irrelevant or poorly structured or poorly worded or grammatically incorrect they are, on those forums. So you can always say that, like I answered as truthfully as I could at the time. And that is kind of a scary prospect, though, Mark, what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I watched it happen to somebody on the news last night. A lady said that her identity was stolen, and they were claiming her unemployment benefits, and they actually sent her a bill. We overpaid you, and that's how she found out
Oh,
that she was being scammed. She didn't know.
They didn't even pay her. They paid somebody else
Yeah, they
on
paid
her
somebody
behalf.
else.
Wow.
And it took the news media to kind of bring that to the forefront, and TLC says, "Okay, well, we won't charge you," but they were going to when they first approached her.
Yeah.
She was kind of in that vortex, and they were like, "Well, as far as we know, you got the money."
Yeah.
Well, you're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
Right.
Apparently, yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely a thing. Like you can do the appeals, like you were saying, Mark, and you really should, for sure. Especially if it's not true, you need to do that appeal. But even then, the appeal doesn't always take effect in the system for several weeks.
Right, and sometimes the appeal takes several weeks to happen.
Yes,
from what I understand. Yeah,
absolutely. Depending on what it is, it could take even more than that. So, it is important to get that appeal process, because eventually that will stop them going to collections, which is what you don't want that to happen.
You don't want,
yeah. And that's where this whole thing gets really scary, and people sort of give up and say, "Wait, maybe I don't need any help," even if they do need help, and we want everybody to stay in their homes and stay in Austin so we can get the industry going again. But it's not happening yet, That was the next thing I was going to bring up is if you guys heard about some work coming back, I had some work about to happen today, but the rain is stopping it, and of course that'll happen with our outdoor stuff. But what about you guys?
I've actually had the phone ring and been offered gigs and
me too.
Excellent.
Gone out there. But I feel much more secure about doing it because I'm fully vaccinated, and the people that I'm playing with are fully vaccinated.
Right.
Oh man, yeah. That's the ideal right now. That's really the best we can do, and that's good. That's a good thing, and it'd be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see if the venues or the bands sort of take advantage of that to try to build confidence in the audience. And be like, hey, we're fully vaccinated. Come on, see our show, or our staff is fully vaccinated. Come on, see the show, or whatever, And I don't know. Yeah, there's still a lot of hesitancy. Go ahead.
Technically, your employer could actually see that.
That is going to come up more and more. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's going to have to be something we're ready for. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. What kind of any indoor gigs, or is it all outdoor gigs for you guys so far?
No, mine were indoor.
Yeah, indoors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Mark? Outdoor, indoor?
It's been a combination. I got offered 2 outdoor gigs this weekend, which I don't think the one tomorrow is going to happen because of the rain. But I did a indoor gig last week, and it's been kind of a mixture of indoor and outdoor stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, the indoor is where you really want to make sure everybody's doing the mask thing still, even when they're vaccinated. But that new guidance from the CDC came out this week, about outdoors and everything, and I think that'll help with building the audience confidence. I think a little bit, but it's just going to take a while, until you can point at the actual infection rates and the hospitalization rates and see that they're going down or they're not there at all. Hopefully at some point, that's what's really going to get people to come out again. So,
well, I was reading on the CNN website that New York plans to go back completely by July 1st.
Wow.
That's ambitious, but that's their plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the time to do it up there is in the summer, of course, because they have cold and flu season as soon as the fall starts. So yeah, yeah. I mean, that would be great. You know, if Broadway goes back, that'll be a big thing for the music industry for sure. You know, and
That's the guy they were talking to.
yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that would be cool. I hope it works. That's, yeah, that's really the thing. My goodness. All right. Well,
Seem kind of ambitious, but you know
Yeah.
they're using their vaccination rate to kind of mine data from that, and they feel fairly confident that they've supplanted the threshold.
yeah. Well, and of course, in a really big city like that, where the living spaces are so small, like going out of your house is so much more important. They just don't have the space in their houses like we have down here, you know.
Right.
So they're always leaving their house all the time, you know. And yeah, so the whole lockdown thing is a whole different concept for them. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're probably ready to sign off. You guys have anything else you wanted to bring up this week?
Nope, that's it.
No. Okay. Yeah. Well, you guys mind hanging out for just a minute after we get done, and we'll
Sure.
talk about the future of the broadcast. But you, the viewer, if you're in the music business, please don't give up. We can get through this by sharing information and solidarity and working together to solve these problems, because they can be solved. At least they have been so far. We haven't found anything we can't solve yet. So, yeah, let us know what you're experiencing. Even if you're experiencing, negative stuff, that can help because you won't be the only one experiencing it, and other people will too, and we can work together to solve those problems. So, yeah, we'll see you next week at this time, and take care.